In this tutorial today, I'm going to be working with this super cute 20-ounce modern curve so that I can do a half vinyl wrap using some heat. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca and I am a Tumbler creator. Remember, everything listed in this tutorial will be linked and listed down in the description box for you guys below. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. For this tumbler design, I'm going to be working with a very fun tropical floral design from AB Designs. If you go to her webpage, either by your mobile or online, she has tons of different tropical design feels in which you can pick from. Be sure to click that drop down menu to choose whether you want white or the clear vinyl. This option is available throughout her entire website, so be sure to be mindful of that so that you can click on the one that is going to suit your needs the best. For my 20-ounce modern curve, I have already sanded and prepped as well as taped off half the tumbler evenly. This way I can use my painter's tape as a guide, and my vinyl sheet is a little larger than it should actually be. But this is to where I can have the room that I need. The only thing I will point out as we get further in the video is that I didn't go further down the bottom of the tumbler, so I had to cut off more than I actually wanted to, as I wanted this to go from the very top to the very bottom, but we'll get to that later. So the first thing I'm going to do is just evenly kind of place this right down the center. This way I can choose to work on one side and then the other. I made this tumbler on a 30-ounce modern curve probably about a year ago on my channel, and I did have some struggles. So I was bound and determined to redo this tumbler, and regardless of the size, the technique is pretty much the same. So when doing this style tumbler, you really want to work little by little. And when applying that heat, you also want to make sure that you don't overstretch the vinyl to which you then distort the images. So this type of design actually works really, really great for something like this. I also want to suggest too that it's probably 10 times easier when you don't have nails. So I'm having to work even more carefully to make sure that I don't puncture through the vinyl. I also want to mention too, when working with so much excess vinyl doing this particular technique, it is a little bit difficult as it wants to lap over itself. So we're just, again, being super careful, working little by little to get it up against that tape. Once I make my way to the tape, I'm then going to use my fingernail to slide a line, if you will, in a groove into that painter's tape with my vinyl, so that I know where my vinyl is, and I'm going to go ahead and trim off this excess vinyl and just get it out of the way. But I am not going to use my X-Acto knife until the other side has been completed. So here's where I'm going to go ahead and use my fingernail to score in that line, and then go ahead and use scissors to remove this excess vinyl. Now you'll also notice here where it goes all the way to the bottom, that was the original plan. Unfortunately, when I flipped this bad boy over to the other side, it did not work out as planned. So that's when I have to cut it up at the groove. But again, I didn't make any cuts with my X-Acto knife until this was completely wrapped. Once the first side was completed, it's looking great, and it was time to go ahead and move on to the other side. Now, I guess I want to tell you, because I can't stop thinking about the theory that when you're curling your hair, always one side looks better. It seems to just go with ease, and the other side, not so much. You can't never figure out why. Well, I'm here to tell you the same theory is going on with the cup, because it just seemed to be more difficult for some reason on this other side than the first side. Just my tidbit of information. But anyways, here's where you can see that it clearly is up further on the bottom edge of that tumbler than I desired. So we're still pushing forward. I'm still going to complete it as originally planned, and I figured out the other alternative. Once I felt pretty solid that I didn't have any wrinkles on the actual vinyl side, and which was going to be on the tumbler for good, I decided it was time to go ahead and trim up this excess vinyl so that I can then remove the tape. I also want to mention that this was sped up, so this probably took me about 10 to 12 minutes in complete total to wrap this 20-ounce modern curve. Once I got all my trimming done and everything was nice and tightened up, it was time to taper off to spray paint the other side. For my spray paint color today, I chose Magenta, which is a satin from Rustoluem. Once my tumbler is sprayed, I like to remove the tape immediately. I'm going to allow this to sit off and completely dry because for this tutorial, I'm actually going to be using the Dynamite Fuse, which is a crafting adhesive from TNT. Plus, I'm going to glitter with AB Designs Sassy, which is a gorgeous iridescent fine. And of course, for this step, you could definitely use Mod Podge or even epoxy. Once you've applied your glitter and you're happy with it, we're going to go ahead and set this off to the side so it can fully dry. Once dry, we're going to clear seal it with the clear seal from Rustoluem. You can also use Mod Podge to seal your glitter in if you'd like. For sealing with Mod Podge or the clear seal from Rustoluem, just make sure you tap off any excess glitter and remove it from unwanted areas first. Once sealed and completely dry, it's time to go ahead and move into our first coat of epoxy. For my first coat of epoxy, I'm going to be using the Turbo Fast Set from Counterculture DIY. We're going to allow this to fully cure for at least an hour before moving forward. Also, don't forget to use your heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. I do want to mention that I waited about 24 hours prior to this coat of epoxy. I'm not sure if that was the key to success, but my vinyl did not lift in any spots at all, so I was very excited about that. While my tumbler was curing, I decided to go ahead in Cricut Design Space and write up the word summer. I did do an offset using a fun holographic vinyl from Teck Craft Vinyl. The offset was 0.028 and the font that I chose was a fun graffiti font called Dawn Graffiti from defont.com. When placing decals onto a modern style tumbler, it can be a little bit tricky, so take your time and just work slowly. This way it'll help you ensure that you don't have wrinkles and tons of air pockets working your way down. If at any point you find yourself struggling applying a decal, you can very carefully cut slits in the transfer tape close to your image in which you're trying to apply. It's also highly recommended to not have the image and or decal in which you're trying to place too large for a modern style tumbler. So once I had my decal placed, it was time to go ahead and use the exact same vinyl in which I used for my offset for my stripes. So of course I went down both sides of my vinyl that met up with the glitter, and I also went all the way around the bottom of the tumbler. It just gave it a nice finishing touch. This tumbler did not need to be sealed, and once all my vinyl was in place, it was time for another coat of epoxy. So for my next coat of epoxy, I am again going to be using the Turbo Fast Set from Counterculture DIY. And after this coat of epoxy, she did not require another one, so this tumbler was completed. Remember to use your heat torch to pop any bubbles you may or may not be able to see. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If so, please let me know down in the comments and be sure to like and subscribe to this channel for more tutorials coming soon. As a quick reminder, all of the links will be listed down in the description box for you guys below. Be sure to check out AB Designs Co. and save using my discount code SCOT15. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.